All right, I want to turn to Yamiche Alcindor and Michael Graham in our Washington bureau. Yamiche is a New York Times reporter covering national politics and social justice issues. And Michael is the creative director for MediaDC, publisher of the Washington Examiner, the Weekly Standard, and Red Alert Politics. All right, we heard from the White House and Speaker Ryan Tuesday that this measure is not take it or leave it, that it's open to adjustment. Let me start with you, Yamiche. How should we interpret that message?
Well, Republicans know that the future of their party really lies on how they deal with health care. So Speaker Ryan is saying essentially that they understand that it's important for them to get this right, and that they realize now, after putting this bill out, in some ways, some people argue rushing it out, that people now have a lot of real issues, including people within their own party. So what we're going to see really is a rejiggering of this bill to try to appease enough House members and enough Republican senators so they can get it passed. And I know Major was asking that question about the idea of why they're using this certain budget maneuver to pass the bill, and it's because they don't have the votes and without passing it that way.
Michael, what do you think?
Oh my gosh, they're committing politics in Washington, D.C. How did that happen? Politicians committing politics. I have to say, that's been kind of the trend of the media coverage since Trump took office. I think it's because he's such a strange character that you see everything brand new. But whether it's getting rid of the attorneys, the U.S. attorneys, or whether it's using the amendment process to pass legislation, this is how it works. I mean, think back to 2009, 2010, when bills were deemed to have passed, even though they hadn't passed in the order they were supposed to, because they wanted to get the bill passed. Yamiche is absolutely right. The final outcome is what matters for the GOP. If people feel like that the crazy premiums are on the way down, which doesn't look like under the bill they've got right now, if their deductibles make more sense, we're not sure. If people can afford to buy their own insurance and are happy to buy it instead of being forced to, that's a win. If it's a disaster, it's a disaster. No one's going to care about managers' amendments or, tussling in the legislature.
Well, let's talk about GOP messaging, though, on this. I want to play a clip from Wisconsin Republican Congressman Sean Duffy when asked about his support for the House measure. Take a listen.
You support the current legislation that the Speaker has put forward, and then we can move on.
Yeah, there's room for improvement.
So if you had to come up for a vote now, how would you vote?
Compared to leaving Obamacare in place, I'll vote for this instead of Obamacare, absolutely.
All right, so Michael, let me start with you. Do Republicans gain cover for supporting this measure when they argue that anything is better than the Affordable Care Act?
Well, it is interesting. I mean, I'm so old. I remember when we were told this was all a binary choice. What was that, 72 hours ago, I think? And now we're negotiating. I do think that is a card that the GOP has not played as well as they can. The problems of Obamacare are real live people experiencing real live pain. You almost never hear Republicans telling that story. At the same time, who wants to vote for the, what's it going to be, the, oatmeal or the yogurt? I mean, give me something good. Is there nothing good to be said about this bill other than at least it's not Obamacare?
Yeah, Yamiche, what do you think about that?
I think that Republicans are going to have a hard time explaining to their constituents why, when they had the presidency and both houses of Congress, that they couldn't come up with a bill that was better than something that was just not Obamacare. Republicans ran and won the presidency, arguably, by convincing people that they could do better with health care and really calling Obamacare a complete disaster. So I think that it's going to be really tough for them if they can't come up with something that helps people out more. And they don't really do the hard luck stories. They are more about this idea of talking to people about access, talking to people about the free market. But really it comes down to, in 2018 and 2020, how do your constituents feel about the health care that they're able to access?
Yeah, we heard, Michael, Senator Chuck Schumer mocking President Trump and Speaker Ryan for not wanting either of their names on the bill. First of all, who at this point is the owner of it, and does it even matter?
Well, I heard a rumor that someone was mockingly calling it the Osama bin Laden health plan, and the bin Laden family is threatening to sue if they continue to link it to this health care bill. That's how bad it is. It is the GOP bill. It's clearly not a creature of the White House alone. You can call it Trump care all you want. I actually think that helps the bill. You can call it Ryan care. That only hurts among talk radio listeners. Yamiche nailed it first thing. The GOP is in this together, and they've got to find a way to sail this boat forward in a way that people want to be part of it. And then afterwards, the name won't matter if they can make it work.
Does it matter, though, Yamiche, the name, who owns it?
I think it matters in that if it fails, they don't want it to be called Trump care. I think if you talk to Democrats now, they are very, I think, regretful of the fact that they allowed this bill, or maybe went along with this bill being called Obamacare, because we see all those reports about people who can't tell the difference between the Affordable Care Act and Obamacare, because it became such a politicizing thing to have the president's name on the health care bill. So maybe Republicans are learning from that and don't want to have the leader of their party associated with this bill too closely.
All right, I want to turn to the president's claims that he was wiretapped. Senator Lindsey Graham renewed his calls on the FBI to hand over evidence relating to wiretaps on President Trump. And here's what he said on Tuesday. Take a listen.
I make an announcement about the letter and let the FBI know they're about to screw up big time if they keep running to the Intel Committee and not answer that letter. And sort of the theme of what I'm going to say is that I believe in regular order, let each committee do its thing. We have jurisdiction over the FBI. I like Director Comey a lot, but we wrote him a letter in the Department of Justice. We have oversight of the Department of Justice and the Director of the FBI. All things legal come through the Judiciary Committee. If they don't honor this request and give us an answer, then I would say that we need a joint select committee because the regular order is not working.
Michael, let me start with you. I mean, he didn't mince words there. The FBI about to screw up big time, according to the senator there. What do you think? What's your reaction to that?
Well, as a fellow South Carolinian, I'm glad that Lindsey Graham is doing this, because that's been my frustration on the entire Russia story. Lots of allegations, insinuations, but the people who have the information, whether it's exactly what Lieutenant General Flynn said in the conversation that was captured, or whether it's the FISA warrants that were in fact applied for and that do exist in the Department of Justice, you know, inside the building or wherever. They're real documents. They're real facts that we can have, besides just listening to people speculate and say, I think Trump's a Russian spy, or I think Trump was spied on by Barack Obama. Finally, let's have some facts.
Yamiche, let me ask you, the House Intelligence Committee says it's willing to subpoena evidence from the Justice Department before its March 20th hearings into Russian meddling. What message would such a subpoena send?
It would send that that they are taking this investigation really seriously. This has really become now a cloud over the Trump presidency. Both Republicans and Democrats want to know what is going on. I mean, and I think constituents and people all around the country want to feel as though that this is going to be an independent investigation, even for people who support Donald Trump and who don't think that he meddled or had any wrong relationship with Russia. They want him to be cleared, but they want him to be cleared in a way that puts this all to rest, not in a way that makes it seem as though he ordered up a report to say that he wasn't colluding with Russia.